Trackwrestling.com here at the NCAA Championships in Cleveland with the reigning 125-pound national champion Darian Cruz of Lehigh. And Darian, you and I have been having some good conversation before the camera went on these past couple of minutes. Yep. What have you learned the last 2 or 3 years about the mental approach to the way you wrestle?
I personally, I think it's the biggest thing when it comes to competing out here. You know, you've been training all season for this, and the one thing you forget how to do, or you can forget how to do, is physically wrestle. You know, 2 years ago in Madison Square Garden, I felt that pressure, and I think I came in as a 7 seed, and I just cramped up and you know, froze up out there and ended up not placing. You know, that's something that can happen, and I promised myself, you know, that would never happen again. And I worked on it physically, mentally, emotionally, you know, all season. And then when last year came around, the biggest thing was just being loose. You know, you can get as nervous as you want, but as soon as that whistle blows, you gotta let everything go and do what you've been doing for 18 years. You know, do what you've been doing all season, and that's wrestling. So that's something that physically helped me, you know, get to the top of the podium last year, and I think it's gonna help me get to the top of the podium this year.
You wrestled Thomas Gilman, and you and I were talking that your mindset going into that match wasn't necessarily going in to win. It was, let's see how it goes. Some things happen, you build confidence. Then, of course, you beat Ethan Lezak to win the national title. What was most beneficial in that experience, and what was it like for you to stand atop the mountain last year?
You know, that little switch, you know, that kid we were talking about, you know, prior, little switch I made, which was actually believing that, you know, you can win this, and actually, you know, telling yourself, you know, if you want to win, you got to go do it now. And that's something I told myself halfway through the Gilman match, and, you know, I went in there, just, you know, I already achieved, you know, All-American status, and I was just going through the motions almost until that second period, where the refs were kind of reviewing it, where I had time to kind of talk to my coaches. And it only took, you know, 20 seconds of talking to my coaches, where my mindset flipped, and I was like, you know what, if I want to win, you know, and it's been a theme, you know, these past 2 years of how bad do I want to win, you know, whether it's lifting, running, you know, eating, any aspect of life, how bad do I want to win? And I told myself that. And then, you know, the cannon started firing off, and I ended up beating Thomas Gilman. And then after that moment, after like you trust in your training and believe in yourself with something as big as that, you know, being undefeated, you know, NCAA finalist, and you know, he's really tough, and this, that, and the other. Once you believe in yourself, you know, everything after that is going to be easy. At least for me it was. So when I went into the finals, there was a little nerves, but I was more excited to get out there and do what I knew how to do, you know, and climb the podium, and that's something that was awesome in the moment, and it's something that I've been missing since the season's been over for this year. So I'm excited to climb that.
You look at this weight class, 125. It's a stacked weight class, and I personally, Darian, am not a fan of teams that win, and you know, nobody believed in us, and nobody thought we could do this, or nobody thought I could do this, and feel disrespected. I think that's a bunch of BS half the time. I would say this. With you, I think it applies a little bit. Just from my perspective as a fan, understandably so. You look at Lee, Soriano, Tom Sello, those guys are phenomenal. You're the reigning national champion. You're undefeated. You're pretty good yourself. Do you think about that a little bit at least? Like, man, I mean, you're right there.
It's crazy how, and I've said this plenty of times, the kids are getting so much better younger. So age isn't really a factor in this. So I've honestly felt slightly like an underdog this year, you know, being undefeated, and I think me taking that loss at the All-Star Classic was something that, you know, had something to do with it. But you know, I agreed to do that, you know, and so did Piccinini, and you know, he's a great wrestler, great kid. So he wrestled tough that day. That day, you know, he beat me. So you know, luckily that day is not today, so, or this weekend. So I'm excited to go out and almost prove myself, which is crazy to even say, you know, in the sense that I'm the returning national champ, and I still kind of feel like the underdog in this aspect. Seeds don't matter, you know, you have to beat everyone that's on the other side of the line. But I honestly use it as motivation. You know, I'm ready and excited to kind of do what I did last year. You know, I don't think anyone saw me winning nationals last year, and they thought, you know, since Soriano got hurt, being the 2 seed, that you know, Gilman was going to be a sure thing, and you know, I stepped up to the occasion, and I think that's what I'm going to do this year. There's no sure thing, and I'm excited to fight for every point and go out and beat whoever's on the other side of the line, whether it's, you know, Lee, Soriano, Tomasello, Lezak, whoever I have. I'm excited to to do this, that, and the other. So one last time for Lehigh.
Anybody that you're more intrigued to wrestle?
Yeah. Honestly, I want to wrestle Thomas. We haven't wrestled since Dapper Dan, I think, which is the Pittsburgh Classic, I think they call it now, which is USA versus Pennsylvania my senior year in high school, which is crazy to think because we wrestled, all through high school, middle school. We wrestled since we were little. So, for us to finally meet in college again would be exciting, He got the last win, so I'm trying to, capitalize on that before it's all said and done. So that's one kid I'm excited to wrestle. What
are you most proud of when you look back at your time at Lehigh?
I'm most proud of the impact, that I had on my teammates, on the program. I wouldn't be anywhere. I wouldn't have any of the accomplishments that I have, if it wasn't for the coaches and the alumni and the program in itself, building me as a man, growing me up. So I thank Lehigh for that, and I'm so proud to wear that L Hawk on my singlet and represent them as a whole because they given me the opportunity to compete for them. So that's something that's bigger than me, and that's something that I try to kind of make wrestling. It's bigger than me. Regardless, if I get the wins, if I get the accomplishments, I always try to push it and make it way bigger than me, and I think that helps with pressure as well.
Enjoy this weekend. Thanks for the time, Darian.
Thank you so much.